Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Miranda and I'm the Enchantress of Avalon. And I want to say happy February everyone. It is officially Valentine's month and that is why today's video is on another one of my favorite goddesses, Aphrodite. She is by far my favorite Greco-Roman goddess. Persephone is a close second, but Aphrodite is my favorite. And I realized I have yet to actually do an Aphrodite video. I have so many blog posts written about her. Like, seriously, I'll link some down in my description box below. I have so many whiteroseofavalon.life blog posts about her, but I've never done a video. So it's the perfect time, as not only is it my first video of the month of February, it's also my first Friday video of February. So let's get started. So why is Friday significant? Well, Friday is Aphrodite's sacred day. It is the day ruled by Venus, the planet of love, and of course, Venus is Aphrodite's Roman counterpart. And it is, of course, the day I mentioned in my Seven Gifts of Fairy video that love is one of the 7 gifts of fairy, and I associate that day with Friday and with the sacral chakra, and with the heart chakra, because it's all love. So she does have relationship to the sacral chakra as well. She's also a goddess of sexuality, sensuality, beauty, and even war. Now, the war one might be a bit surprising, as the myths we normally associate with Aphrodite today are not ones that are so war-centric, except for the story of the Trojan War, and I will talk about that a bit in this video. I did want to mention her warlike aspect, as she was worshipped in a warlike aspect for many years and in many regions. But eventually, this need to section out deities into different boxes of being god of this, goddess of that, lost some of that in translation, where we don't have her as associated with war in the public consciousness. You think of Aphrodite, you think of the goddess of love, and she is that. But love and war, they are entwined. They are opposites and equals, and that's why we have that old cliched phrase, all's fair in love and war. The only two things all's fair in. So there you go. Definite connection between love and war right there. And in her warlike aspect, she is referred to as Aphrodite Aeria. A-E-R-I-A, I believe is the spelling, and it is Aphrodite in an Aries aspect. Aries being, of course, the god of war, and her most famous divine lover. She had many lovers, both divine and mortal, and her most famous divine lover was, of course, Aries. That leads me to the first myth I want to talk about with Aphrodite, and that is, after the famous birth of Aphrodite, I like the sea foam telling, personally, although there is, of course, an alternate telling having her the daughter of Zeus and the nymph Dione, but I like the dramatic rising out of the sea foam telling. But no matter which telling, after her birth and her coming to Mount Olympus, she is married off to Hephaestus, who is the lame god of the forge. And by lame, I mean he has like a crippled foot. That's the traditional meaning of that word. Today, colloquially, we use it to mean just anything kind of passé, but it originally meant someone who had some sort of physical deformity. And she's married off to him. And he is a very loving and supportive husband. He's always gifting her with beautiful things. However, Aphrodite's not really interested in him. She's not attracted to him. She is, however, as mentioned, very attracted to Aries. And it's not long before the two begin a very, very torrid and romantic love affair. And of course, the god Helios, he's a Titan, but he sided with the Olympians during the Clash of the Titans and therefore is still actively around, not locked up in Tartarus. And he is the living embodiment of the sun, meaning that anything that the sun touches, he can see. So he finds out about the affair between Aphrodite and Ares very quickly. And he feels bad for Hephaestus, so he tells him about it. So Hephaestus decides to get his revenge by crafting this very fine, thin golden net that would lay gently over the bed in their home, the home that he shared with Aphrodite, and he would tell her he's leaving. And of course, as soon as he left, she invited her lover over. And as soon as the two got on the bed, the nets suspended them in the air for all of the Olympians to see. And Hephaestus brought everyone in. And instead of being outraged like he wanted, they thought it was funny. Most of them just really kind of laughed and thought it was all a good joke. And it took for Poseidon to finally say, okay, come on, enough. Let's cut them down. It's enough. Hephaestus, you outed them, but come on, let's just cut them down and let them go on their way. And of course, after this, Aphrodite and Hephaestus start to just live separately because she was the goddess of love and sexuality. She wasn't going to be tied down to a man she was not attracted to. And of course, she did have children with Ares, several actually, and one of the most famous is Eros, or in the Roman equivalent, Cupid, which relates right to Valentine's Day, as we always think of Cupid as associated with that day. However, I do need to know that there are two different Greek gods called Eros. One is Eros, the embodiment of love, and then one is the son of Aphrodite. Both are associated with her in some way, and it's very muddied as to whether they are one and the same or not, and as to if he's truly the son of Aphrodite or if he predates her in some way. Very complex. I did want to note that, but I do not have time in this video to dig into that. But when he is the son of Aphrodite, he is fathered by Ares. And next myth of Aphrodite I want to mention is, let me see what my notes are. Oh, okay. Adonis. Her most famous mortal lover is Adonis. Adonis is a very odd story. I'm not going to tell the whole of it, but basically his mother was turned into a tree because here's Aphrodite's emotional involvement in this. It starts from the very beginning. Basically, the parents of Mira, as was her name, said that she was more lovely than Aphrodite herself. You never say that. You never compare yourself to a goddess when it comes to anything, let alone beauty, and not to say that you're more beautiful than Aphrodite. It never works out well. Didn't work out well for Mira. Doesn't work out well for Psyche. Well, it eventually does, but she has to pass a lot of tests in order to get together with Eros. Don't compare yourself to a goddess. Just don't do it. It's rude. Let's not do that. But anyway, Mira gets impregnated by her father because Aphrodite casts a love spell on her to make her attracted to her own father, and he decides to want to kill her, but all of the gods get together and turn her into a tree, the myrrh tree, which is sacred to Aphrodite. And 9 months later, this baby bursts forth from the tree. And at this point, Aphrodite is calmed down and she feels incredibly bad about what she did to her. as, she, I think at that point probably realized her ire should have been placed on the parents, which, I mean, it kind of was with the whole incest thing, but yeah. And this very beautiful baby comes out, Adonis. Aphrodite gives Adonis to Persephone to raise, and then when he is old enough, the two kind of fight over him, mirroring the Persephone being fought over by her husband Hades and her mother Demeter earlier. But Zeus lets him choose the third. He breaks it into 3/3 the year. 1/3 of the year with Persephone in the underworld, 1/3 of the year with Aphrodite, and the last third he could choose. He, of course, chooses to be with Aphrodite for that third of the year. And they have this really, really magnetic love affair until he is killed. And there's a lot of different versions of his death, but his death is what helps turn roses red. And there are even different versions of how this is. Sometimes it's his blood that seeps onto white roses and turns them red. Sometimes it's the tears Aphrodite is crying that turn the roses red. There's a lot of different versions of this, but again, that association with red roses and true love and Valentine's Day, right in an Aphrodite myth. And then the final myth I want to quickly touch upon, as it's almost the end of the video, is the Trojan War. So the Trojan War was started when Eris, the goddess of discord and strife, threw a golden apple into a wedding feast. It was labeled for the fairest goddess, and of course, Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena all proceeded to fight over it. Zeus was not going to be the judge of this, so he pulled a human, Prince Paris of Troy, and said, "You choose who is the greatest," and all of them tried to bribe him with something. Aphrodite said that she would give him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Of course, he chose the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. As a man who, I'm choosing the pretty girl. So, that, of course, was Helen, who was already married. Which is why when she went to Troy, the Trojan War began. The face that launched 1,000 ships. And Aphrodite actually was involved in that war. She was helping the Trojans, as she had a massive soft spot for Paris and Helen. They truly did love each other, and she wanted them to stay together. But the one thing that actually stopped her participation in the war was when her son, Aeneas, was almost killed. He was her son from one of her mortal love affairs with Anchises. I didn't go over that story, but I could go over it another time if you're really interested in more Aphrodite videos. I'll probably make them anyway, to be honest. But her son was in mortal danger, and being a protective mother, she got him out of there and left the Trojan War. But she was involved in that war. And in fact was involved in how that war began in the first place, which is my one example out of common Greek mythology that shows Aphrodite as goddess of war. And for more information on Aphrodite, I do recommend Bibliotheca Alexandrina's devotional to Aphrodite and Venus, which is called Blood and Roses. It has this beautiful cover. It is an adorable book in that it has a lot of information. As you can see, I have a lot of things marked in it. And I really love this series of devotionals. I have shown them in other videos, and I've recommended them on my blog posts. There's lots of information on different deities in these books. I only have the goddess ones, but I think there probably are god ones too. So I want to thank you all for watching. And please, if you have liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and check out my blog, whiteroseofavalon.life. And if you want to connect with me more, please go ahead and check out my Discord. The link for the server is always in the description box below. Have a very fabulous Venetian Friday, everyone. Bye now.